I met Jody and Tom shortly after I came to Pittsburgh in 1991. They might have been maybe 92. I was called to be the then associate professor uh, of the Metro Urban Institute. I was the founding director of the Metro Urban Institute, and my focus was basically in ethics as it pertains to city life, urban ministry in the metropolitan area. Um, they happened to be students in a required course that I taught, um, which was called Church and Society, which focused on the role of the church in affecting positive change in society, as well as society's impacts upon the church. They were a couple of my immediately outstanding students. Their interest in the subject matter, particularly some of the ethical issues raised around it, caught my attention. And soon we became not just professor, student, but colleagues. My pedagogical approach is that the learning environment is one where not only does the student learn from the teacher, but the teacher learns from the student. And I was immediately caught up by their interest in working with youth. Jody had a big van that she used to hold youngsters around who were in challenged neighborhoods, socially challenged neighborhoods. And I'm saying, what's this all about? And her enthusiasm for what she was doing was infectious. Tom was very much doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, once he graduated from seminary and was ordained, his first church, a UCC church on the north side, he immediately established a program that ministered to the kids out of school. So that was my meeting, and I was intellectually as well as personally involved, interested in that, since our interests met around outreach. This was an evolving project. Shortly beyond graduation, and maybe I won't try to put a time frame on it, but Tom was at this church, and that program grew and grew, and they came up with this then almost harebrained scheme to start a program that would especially address the needs of young African American males in challenge situations. When I say challenge, socially challenged, the normal stuff that is normal in our society, and then how our society tolerates the dysfunction that challenges core city neighborhoods. And from that perspective, they wanted to address the educational gap, which was this wide and growing wider. And so they came up with the idea of starting what they would call the Neighborhood Academy. In Tom's experience, he had much involvement with the Shadyside Academy and so forth. And he said, why does this have to be for more affluent white kids? Why can't black students from more challenged neighborhoods experience this as well? And Jody was right along with him. The disparities doesn't make sense. The challenges don't make sense. And so they set out to establish the Neighborhood Academy. Then once it began to take shape, I began to follow it from the classroom experience. I'd bring students over to see what was going on that little place, that office building on Penn Avenue. That was the first home of the then evolving academy. Because as I introduced students to the urban context, so much of what we see in society, in the media, and so forth is negative. You see the arrest, you hear all of the bad news, the police blotters, and so forth. The problem is you hear about the dysfunctions educationally in school, and they wanted to create another kind of environment. So I used to take my students on field trips in this class to see urban contexts that were challenged and systemically were seeking to systemically change the negative realities into positive ones, of which the Neighborhood Academy was exhibit number one. And so I kept up with them. To take a class of maybe 25 students, graduate students in seminary, over to the Neighborhood Academy, to be greeted as is the tradition at the Neighborhood Academy by students, hosted by students. I think they were maybe ninth graders or something like that. And to have the student say, my name is Ronald, and Ronald Peters, and extend the hand and welcome to the Neighborhood Academy. This is not what most of us expect from a ninth grader, okay? Somebody who may be maybe 14, 15 years old, particularly from the hood, okay? And the sociological stereotypes are largely framed by the visual stereotypes. So when you see a chocolate youngster, okay, and with a tie on, who's a ninth grader, and speaks with a certain demeanor, I was really encouraged by the transformation I saw in the students from my class who were being hosted in this environment, to go and hear from the students and to see them and ask them questions about the neighborhood, the subjects they were taking, and so forth. And for me, this made my task as professor of the seminary teaching ethics and social change much easier, because I did not have to have them read something online or go to the library and so forth. Those are important resources, but to come and actually interface with students whose lives were being changed systemically, and they could see the outcome of it and interact with those. That was one of the not only favorite places for the Neighborhood Academy, it turned out to be one of the favorite sites that students would talk about after the class was over. They do the evaluation, and that would always be rated high. And pretty soon, my classes were filled to capacity, because people heard, oh, when you go in that class, you're going to see some things, and you'll probably get to go to this school. I think it's called the Neighborhood Academy. That kind of excitement among students, I had nothing to do with it, was showing that not only were the students at the Neighborhood Academy being uplifted, challenged, and growing, but graduate students in a theological school who had never been to places in the inner city saw a difference and became encouraged to do some of those kinds of things in their context. The Neighborhood Academy has been a resource for systemic change that inspires hope in people's lives. Everybody I see at the Neighborhood Academy has an upbeat approach to life, which is hopeful, which is so important in a society that perpetually over time finds a new reason to be skeptical, cynical, downright distrustful of others. But when you come into this academic environment, the teachers are excited and glad to be here. The students are excited and glad to be here. you see the marvelous programs in the classes, all right? First time I've been in classes for this age group that the Academy serves that had advanced technology, you know, not only computers and so forth, but they also had baby, you know, models for children to learn how to deal with their siblings and so forth. This becomes so hopeful, and particularly in our society at this time, in a post-COVID world in which we live, where the whole society is, at times can appear, adrift into more hopefulness and distrust, and all of the violence, not only in socially challenged, socially, economically, and politically and culturally challenged environments, but whether you go to church or your synagogue, or whether you go to the supermarket, you can go to the gym, all of these places, you can be running in a park, all of these places, people are now becoming more fearful, their shopping malls, and to come to this oasis of civility, this oasis of hope, this oasis of we can be better than this. We are better than this, but we didn't know it. So this is a context where we learn who God has created us to be and what the possibilities are. So again, the Neighborhood Academy is a resource that I see for society that gives hope not only to the children whom it serves and their families, but also to the wider society. And as I see the graduates of the Neighborhood Academy, 100% going into college, and then I see the alumni coming back and what they're doing and giving back, if not in this context, in others. That's exciting because that's what I think the model prayer that Jesus taught. Let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, in the ideal society, in the utopian society. This is one of the institutions in society that is making that happen. And I am privileged to have been involved with that and even claim that I taught those people who started it. Wow. Doesn't get any better. Happy 21st anniversary, Neighborhood Academy. We're looking for many, many more.